Mr. Kirshner, as promised, I like to take a look at your assembly, maybe go through some of the parts and the function of the assembly, and kind of give you some tips. Generally, it looks pretty good. I like all your parts. One thing that's apparent about the assembly is that when you lift it up, it has a tendency to rotate. In fact, it really exaggerates that when you get towards the end. So it isn't quite parallel to it. And I believe the way you solve that is if you think about this as being mirrored both top and bottom, what you need to have down here is a slide down here as you have, a fixed rotation point over here, and a slide up here. What you have is a slide right here, and I believe that slide needs to be on top. So whatever happens on the top happens on the bottom and vice versa. I think that will make things function a little bit better. So let's do this. Let's start from the top of the bar, from the bottom, and go to the top, and kind of check our parts and see how they work. And what I like to do is open these up, and you can do this one of two ways. You can click on the part itself, right click, and then go up here to your choices up here. But typically, the most common choices are up in the upper left-hand corner. You could open a part, edit the part in place into the assembly, hide components, change transparency, and whatnot. But what we're looking for is open part. We can do the same thing over here on a feature manager design tree. We can open up the part that way too. So let's go ahead and look at the base. What I typically do is open these up, look at your sketches, make sure your sketch is fully defined. You have one that's not fully defined down here. But just for the fun of it, let's start with the top sketch and take a look at that. And that looks like a really good start. When you're putting your sketches together like this, you also want to make sure you don't have any crowding issues, because when you insert these things into a drawing format, the dimensions the way you have them right now is the way they're going to appear in the drawing. So you want to make sure that they look good. So you have good symmetry in there. You have the origin right in the middle of that, which is exactly where you want it to be. So now you have your planes in the middle of that too. Your top plane is there, of course, but you also have your front and the right plane are right down the middle of that too, as you can see. So this one looks good. You know, what you do is you fully define it on one side and just mirror it to the other side. That's perfect, exactly what you want. Then you have your projected origin down here. So that's turning blue. What I typically do when I go through the sketches like this is look for blue elements in here. Things that may not be fully defined, but that also means that your real origin is like that way too. So that's your origin. That's where the origin really is. But the projected origin for your sketching is actually right there. So that looks like it's fully defined. It looks like it's in a good location. For some reason, you know, the text that you have down here in regard to the definition of your diameter down here is actually showing the text. And sometimes that happens when the capacity of your computer, like your memory, is getting really low, and you know, it just pops up every now and then. And if you were to redo that dimension, it might change it. So that looks pretty good. And then this cut extrude down here, and you don't necessarily have to, but it's good practice to go ahead and you know, redefine these. You have some elements down here that aren't fully defined. So what we have down here are these lines down here aren't fully defined. So it looks like, and the way you typically do this is you grab some of the points and you pull those back and forth. You can pull the line, but what's better to grab are the points, because that will tell you more. That'll tell you whether this line and that line are out of, you know, not fully defined, and you can go ahead and define that. So it looks like what you need is a distance relationship here between perhaps that line and the edge. So let's go ahead and put that in. 7.625 perhaps. I'm not certain if that was the original placement of that. I thought it was 7.725, but let's go ahead and rebuild that, and now you can see your sketch for us fully defined. So that's in pretty good shape. I'm not going to save that, but I am going to keep the changes. So I didn't save it, didn't put it on my hard drive, but it will keep it in memory. And then now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the you know the elements as they exist right now in your assembly. So let's go ahead and open up the next component that's going up. Let's open up that. It looks like everything's fully defined, so that's in pretty good shape. It looks like you've done a lot of work here. And I also notice that you have some configurations in here too. You have your default configuration, which you can keep. We can call this like maybe leg 1 or leg translation or whatever you want to do. And then you can have a leg 2 in there too. Think about the default configuration. I usually have a default configuration in there that's got all the elements turned on, so you can see everything and how they relate to each other. But the way it is right now, it looks like it's in pretty good shape. So I like that. Looks like that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and open these up, see if there's any sketches that need to be defined a little bit better. It looks like you have all these pretty well defined, so this is a very good model so far. And yeah, it's in pretty good shape. So that leg and that leg we've covered. I don't think we've covered this, so let's go ahead and open up that and see what that looks like. You have a boss extrude, and that looks like it's underdefined. And yeah, I'm going to make that normal too. I have a shortcut key for that. So it looks like your origin is out here, maybe in an arbitrary position here. Let's go ahead and put your origin in a different spot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take your center line here and kind of trim that a little bit. I'm also going to take the midpoint of this line and make that coincident with that center line. And I did this because I want to make sure that I put the origin down here on the bottom. So you have a midpoint down here. Let's go ahead and delete that midpoint sketch relation. And let's go ahead and grab everything and move that. So if you do a pickbox window around the whole thing, right click, go to move entities. Let's go ahead and pick this point here and move that up close to the origin. It's not going to give us that sketch relation up here. So let's do this. Let's get it kind of close. And then after that, let's click on that and the origin to make those coincident with each other. And that should make it fully black. So everything's black, everything's fully defined. We go ahead and rebuild that. The sketch is fully defined now. So it looks like we're in pretty good shape on that. So let's go ahead and close that out. And I'm not going to save the changes, but again, I'm going to keep the changes in memory so that it updates our model, because I don't want to rewrite the files that you sent me. So looks like everything's in pretty good shape. Let's go ahead and go through your mates and see what that looks like. You have a coincident mate down here, coincident mate on this side so that you line that up, and probably a third coincident mate in the back, which makes that fully defined in the assembly. It looks like we did the same thing on that side, so that's in pretty good shape. Concentric relationship there, coincident relationship, that lines that up. You have a tangent relationship here, that's okay. Coincident and concentric up there, coincident there, and tangent here, which is good, so that that thing rolls along the bottom. And then you have a concentric up here, so that looks like it works. So it looks like everything's in pretty good shape here. Your top, your base on top, your deck, as you call it. Base would be the bottom, deck is on the top, and that's appropriately named. You could also have done this in configuration too. You could have made the deck and the base, the same file if you wanted to do, and made a different configuration out of that. That's your option. You don't necessarily have to do that. But let's go back to our sketches here and see what that looks like. The base sketch here, which is the same dimensions as the base. That looks like it's in pretty good shape. The feet, that's not fully defined. The sketches for putting a hole in there is fully defined. And same with that side too, so that's in pretty good shape. One thing you can do about this too is you can mirror these elements on the other side, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a moment. But your feet, this is pretty good. Looks like it's not fully defined though. And what I found in here were these wayward points in here. It looks like you had some points. Maybe the points are in the middle. I believe probably were in the middle, just as they are in here, of your center rectangle that you made, and somehow they lost those relationships, but you don't really need them here, so let's go ahead and delete them. And what I was looking for here is anything in blue. Anything in blue is probably going to be not fully defined. Something else you could do here too. You went ahead and put in dimensions in here. As I mentioned before, when you put your dimensions in here, they are going to appear on a drawing. You don't necessarily want to have them appear twice. If these are symmetric with each other, you can go ahead and perhaps delete these relations or these elements over here and just mirror everything. So it looks like you initially mirrored these from this side to that side, which is good, using that center line as an element to mirror by. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and highlight these and go to the mirror command up here on your sketch tab on your command manager, and let's mirror about that. So you should see them on this side over here. And if you do that, green check mark, now you have them over here. Now you have only one set of dimensions over here, mirrored to the bottom, and then these two elements mirrored over here. That should be in pretty good shape. Now that might cause other things to go out of reference here, but we can go ahead and fix that. So we have a missing edge over here, missing edge over here. What we want to do is put those edges in over here, and then add these edges over here. So we can redefine it. Just because there are now different features over here, it doesn't recognize what was there before. So we have a couple missing edges over here. Let's go ahead and delete those because I think we've fully defined that. Now our orange or yellowish box turns blue. So I think we're in pretty good shape there. The sketch is out of context over here, so let's go ahead and fix that. You have a sketch relation over here that's no longer valid. A couple things we can do. We can grab that endpoint since it turns red and try to align that up here. So we have that in good shape. This one down here, when it turns red, we can go ahead and drag it and bring that over here. So that looks like it fully defined it. Let's go ahead and rebuild that. It looks like we have some other elements in here too that are a little bit out of context. I think it's probably thinking about the plane and it should be drawn on. So if you right click in Sketch 3, go to Edit Sketch Plane, yeah, now that's missing a face. So I'm not certain what face you started on. I think it might have been this face perhaps, or maybe that face. Let's go ahead and try that and see if that works. If I didn't get the right face, and maybe it was on the other side, we can go ahead and redo that. Let's go ahead and choose this face. And then green check mark. Now it goes all the way through and that's in pretty good shape. So everything else falls into line. Let's go ahead and rebuild that. Let's go ahead and close it. No, we're not going to save it, but yes, we want to keep it in memory. So that updates our model. And now we're in pretty good shape. So, you know, that caused some errors in here too. So let's go ahead and correct that. The coincident relationship in here, since that's a different feature in here, let's go ahead and redefine that. So let's click on that. We're missing a face over here. And I think what it's looking for is this face here. So let's go ahead and click on that. Green check mark. And let's go ahead and rebuild. And that looks like the only error. So remember, when you redefine things in a sketch environment, it gives you a new feature. The new feature, if you go into the assembly environment, that feature also needs to be redefined for the faces and other things that might be in there that might be need to be redefined there, if that makes sense. So yes, I would redefine this so that it's oops, looks like we're not quite in good shape there in the bottom. So we'll have to redefine some of these edges over here, but I'm not going to do that. Be careful when you do make redefinitions in here, and maybe that you know, having those redundant dimensions in there on that one part, the deck part. You know, you can probably keep that, and that's okay. But keep that in mind as you're doing your modeling. That you want to make sure you reduce the amount of dimensions down as much as you can, so you don't have those things imported into your drawing. But other than that, your model is in pretty good shape. The mechanics of it, let's go ahead and redefine that so that it's you have a fixed, you know, concentric and coincident relationship over here, and you want to make sure it slides translationally on the bottom of your deck as it does down here. So, any questions? Give me a holler back, and we'll go from there.